All right, I'm back with Conor Dalton, Marketing Director at Blue Liner and instructor for 7 Pillars of Digital Marketing Academy. And we're talking about the highly divisive hot button issue of the NFL protests, President Trump's recent admonition of the players, and the response, the league-wide response that's taken place. Recently, something pretty interesting happened. This just was yesterday, I believe, that a number of the owners, coaches, and players met with the commissioner of the league, which is something that hasn't happened around these issues since Kaepernick started the protests in 2016. So apparently this Trump, for better or worse, has initiated something to really move the issue forward and move the conversation forward in a way that seemed to be, from hearing from the players afterwards, very constructive and one where the players felt like they were heard and that they were able to better listen and everyone was able to understand both sides of the equation. Because at the end of the day, the NFL is a business and the owners have these franchises that have value and they want to continue putting out a good product, a good entertainment product that helps them continue to generate revenue and value and TV ratings. Otherwise, the whole thing, the platform for everyone will be lost.
Yes, everybody loses if they don't kind of get a handle on what really is happening.
Yeah, and so it's an interesting perspective. In this part of our conversation, I want to take the focus to through the lens of our kind of time bug 2020 life vision lens, where we focus on personal, individual, and also collective development for families, for communities, and with a real eye towards the future and goal setting and resolution. So it was really on that note, it was great to see that the different sides of the different parties with different interests kind of came together to start discussing that. One of the players from the New York Giants, Casillas, actually made a great analogy, an interesting analogy, comparing Kaepernick to Rosa Parks, and saying when she stood up or went to sit in the front of that bus years back, there was huge outrage and it was against the laws and the rules, and not that it's necessarily a perfect correspondence and correlation, but the fact that
it's
Kaepernick,
similar, he's breaking the mold, and then the first person to. It's very easy to jump on, not easy to jump on the bandwagon, but it's less risky, easier. I mean, he's now without a team, right? So he's no longer with the 49ers, and just, we're talking about player ethics and that coming under more scrutiny. A lot of the players who have violations under, a lot of these areas are not without teams. They have no issues funding a team, but yet it's obviously a very controversial subject. But he no longer has a team like Kaepernick. It lost his. Assumably
he put it on the line.
He put it on the line.
He put it on the line.
Price, you could say.
He put it on the line, and it was great to hear other players acknowledging that and feeling that the NFL and as a collective group, we kind of left him hanging. And but at the end of the day, it's still very early in the process. Whether or not he plays football again, I don't think is the main issue. I'm sure financially, hopefully, he saved some money from the millions that he made. He had some big contracts. And
he was Super Bowl 2014.
He was in the Super Bowl. They almost won. They lost a close one to the Ravens. But he was a great player that year and many other years, and still could be a top quarterback in this league. Now, I think, again, as we said about Trump, whether you support him or not, his kind of polymathic kind of career, multifaceted, moving to different areas. I look at Kaepernick the same way. Here's a world-class, top of his game athlete, putting that on the line because he felt strongly about not his own goals and interests, but true to our topic here, the goals of others. And it's something we highlight in the Time Bug in 2020 philosophies, is that as driven as we are, especially here in America, it's all about go and get it, be ambitious, compete and win, and it becomes very individualistic in a certain sense, and sometimes we can lose sight of the fact that the goals of others, having empathy, compassion, and just taking time out of your own self-interest to focus on what is important to other people that you might care about or feel for. And to me, that's something that when we talk about sports and politics, first of all, for politicians, that's their job. Your whole job is to actually focus on the goals and needs and feelings and opinions of others. It is supposed to be your job, and some politicians, I'm sure, really feel that and provide service.
Yeah,
same for military, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're going out there, you're risking yourself for the goals and needs and values of others. That's what it's supposed to be, not necessarily what it always turns out to be. And for athletes, you know, you could look at it both ways, and there's you're making money and having a profession, but you're also providing entertainment value. But when you do what Kaepernick does, you're kind of crossing this transom from like being an entertainer to being a social activist. And so to me, that's a Polymath type move. And he's kind of also, like Trump, gained a huge following, was the #1 jersey sale for a long time. So love him or hate him, he's made an impact, and he's someone that will go down in history as someone people talk about.
Well, you know, as they say, kind of controversy creates cash, you know, it's kind of one of these things. But I think what's important, looking at others and kind of sacrificing himself for other people, again, not to, you know, I mean, without putting him on too high a pedestal, it's what I do admire is that he did it at a time where he really, really had the most, you know, social currency, had the most to lose, was in the most important place of his career really when he did it. It's not as if he did it after he retired.
Right. And no one would have listened to him anyway, because once you're an athlete that's out of your prime, it's all about the new guy coming up, and the veterans don't quite get, you know.
No, but it's interesting, and it's kind of a, I think, you know, in general, more on the time bug side and the 2020 side, you know, it's tremendously fulfilling and rewarding to help other people achieve their goals, or at least be an integral part of that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think sometimes we get out of this mindset, we get into a win-lose mindset when we feel like we can only succeed at other people's expense. And I think that is the general tone that's being pushed out on all media right now, but we all know that that's really not the case. You know, when you've had an instance where you've kind of lifted up someone else while you were yourself kind of progressing towards something, it's tremendously rewarding, and actually probably works out better for you, you know. So I don't know, that would be my opinion really, as how that kind of links into the other side of the whole argument of, like, if people are going to be active about this, to have other people's interests, or to really not just be speaking from their own point of view, or putting themselves in other people's shoes, is really where the best points come from, you know. I mean, like, seeing other people's perspective on this kind of, I don't know, it makes it not all for nothing, right? You know?
Absolutely. Well, I think it ties into something we brought up earlier on, which is, you know, to be more objective. When you take a step back and out of your own skin and out of your own day-to-day, you know, focus, you can actually develop more empathy, compassion, and have an objective approach, even towards issues like this. You know, if you were on the right and I was on the left, and we were just battling from our idealistic kind of trenches, and unwilling to kind of step outside and let me come see how things actually look from your end. You know, like the meeting that the owners and the players had, or meetings that can happen in other contexts. That's part of where this principle of focusing at least 10% of your energy on the goals of others means at least come out of your shell for 10% of the time to truly stand behind someone else, someone that you may not totally understand. And that's something that, again, politicians and athletes, we like to hope that they can all embrace that, especially politicians who are responsible for governance of large groups of people.
But I think, you know, I agree with you. I think I would consider myself to have a unique perspective on it, seeing as, like, you know, living and working here and having the same, you know, goals and interests as the majority of people that are in the same industry, say, as me, or live in the same area as me. But interestingly, you know, that, you know, it's not necessarily, you know, the national anthem or flag. It doesn't have that same supercharged thing for me. Obviously, I can see how other people have, you know, are linked so directly into it. So it's interesting.
You could be a little objective.
Yeah, a little bit objective, and it's kind of, I think that allows me to see maybe more sides of it too, you know. But it's I just think, again, just to reiterate, I think it's fantastic how it's like, it really is the perfect hot topic for right now, because it takes all the issues that have been all this pressure that has been compounding up until now, and places on like a scenario which people love, you know, like something a lot of people hold very near and dear, and they either love it or they hate it, and then they either love or hate this issue on top of that love or hate issue thing. So it's very interesting. And
so thinking about it from a personal development and kind of collective positive outcome standpoint, what do you think would be a good outcome in this sense with this issue kind of coming to the forefront? Paint us a nice picture of how this might be able to reconcile and move forward positively.
I think the arm linking is very positive. I think I don't think the act of kneeling is disrespectful. You know, I mean, you kneel to a king, right? But it's obviously it's been taken like that in this context. So I think the most positive outcome would be that obviously, you know, teams would come out for it. But I think that, you know, maybe it was a new tradition now where the teams would and fans would link arms as the anthem is playing, because, I mean, anything that is going more down the track of unity can only be good. I think that's exactly what the world is missing right now. There's too much, you know, there's too much dividing within divisions, and, you know, it's like everyone's trying to siloize everything, and I think anything that's an act of, you know, togetherness, I guess, is only a positive thing. So I think that might be, like, I think in my view, best case scenario, we come out of this with a new tradition nearly, you know? Let's all link arms during the national anthem. I think
interesting perspective, and I think that's a positive look and possibility. I guess we'll find out as these weeks unfold and the various reactions take shape, and you know, it'll continue being a conversation. It's something that's certainly not going away anytime soon. Hey man, thanks for being here and talking about that. We'll catch up on that and some other topics, you know, in the weeks to come. We'll have you back maybe in a couple weeks, huh?
Awesome, you got it.
Cool, thanks man. Conor Dalton, everybody, we'll take a break and be back and wrap up the show with some final statements on this interesting theme for the week about the NFL protests.
In India, 50% of our population lives on less than $2 a day, and they have no access to any kind of public health system which can take care of them.
100 years after the first heart surgery, less than 20% of the world's population can afford it. For 80% of the world's population, if they ever require a heart operation, they're going to die.
You see a small child, mother is holding a child, and you tell them that there's a hole in the heart which needs to get fixed. The first question the mother asks in this country is, how much is it going to cost?
The patient and their family should be focused on the healing and the recovery and not having to worry about the finances.
Health City is a vision to change the way that healthcare is delivered and to provide the highest quality of healthcare at the lowest price to the largest number of people.
Anyone that doesn't believe that healthcare is being disrupted outside the boundaries of the U.S. is not watching what's happening in the Cayman Islands, and they're not watching what's happening in India.
We have to find ways of reducing cost. You can no longer spend 18 or 19% of your GDP on healthcare. It's unsustainable.
I believe that India will prove to the world that the wealth of the nation has nothing to do with the quality of healthcare. And once that happens in India, it will be very easy for other countries to follow.